Workington, the town that made the rails. The West Cumbrian town of Workington is steeped with a remarkable industrial history that has almost been forgotten. The Moss Bay Steel Works was once proudly responsible for the production of vast quantities of steel rails, which were shipped to railway building countries all over the world. But it was the unique combination of the West Cumbrian industries that contributed to the overall success of the steelworks. The mines, ironworks, steelworks and docks were linked by a network of railways transporting the coal and steel to other parts of Great Britain and overseas. Without the steam trains that travelled throughout the county to collect materials from the likes of Bekermet and Camerton, the local mining collieries at St Helens and Risehow, the Derwent Hematite Iron Company, or Prince of Wales Dock, the extraordinary vision of the legendary Henry Bessemer would not have been realised. This short film remembers how a small town grew to influence the global transformation of rail travel. A focus group was assembled in 2019 to research Workington's industrial past. The vision, to create memories in and around Workington railway station which recognise the impact these industries had on the rest of the world. Very little now remains to remind us of what was once a thriving industry, employing thousands of local people within West Cumbria. The Rails Which Circle the World project plans to change this, and showcase these wonderful times when Workington was a world leader. You will find a series of history boards on the northbound platform depicting how it all started, right through to the eventual closure of the Workington Steelworks in 2006. Our aim? For children and young adults to appreciate what working life was like back in the day. For others, a trip down memory lane.
Workington is my town, a town built on iron. 30,000 of us, living, working and playing together in a community built on our Bessemer heritage.
A rich countryside indeed, with such beauty on its face and so much treasure in its heart.
Proud of our past and confident in our future, we are generally considered a lively, friendly people. We have built a great works, a fine town and a good way of life.
Rail was paramount to the Workington Steelworks, transporting materials from all over the county to produce these unique rails.
On a Monday morning, you come in at 1 minute past midnight, and that was for lighting the engines up, maybe about 20, 30 locos to fire up. A shift starting at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, and day shift. On the day shift, you'd got jobs like cleaning the firebox out, going inside and chipping all the stairs off, for clinkers and that.
One of the local trips would fetch a train of coal from Maryport to Derwent Ironworks, leave that there, get a train of empty hoppers, take it through to Bransty for loading, and then fetch a train back to Derwent for to go on the coke ovens again. Then they would take another train, then it would catch another train of empty hoppers to take to Maryport, and they ran around like that all day long.
You started from Workington Yard, you went to such as Camerton. Now it's hard to believe there was a spot at Camerton where you went and there was a wagon works there. And the next spot was Brigham. You showed you at Cole side and said Brigham. And then your next move was Keswick. And summertime it was great. You used to enjoy going up there, and you knew everybody. Art Sigelman knew you, because you were going up every 5 or 6 weeks. You were going up there, and everybody knew everybody.
We used to go till Bekermet mines to get the iron ore out, and then fetch it down to work in steelworks, and then the shunt engineers put it in. And maybe another day we'll go to Rowra and fetch a stone down, and you're talking about a couple of wagons. You got all cork wagons, iron ore wagons, stone wagons, Would you ever come up from to the steelworks?
The North East lads used to fetch coal, maybe 25 wagons, 21-ton hopper wagons, maybe 25 of them. Now we'd hook off, we would hook onto it, and we would fetch that, and that would go, we would fetch that direct through to steelworks at Workington.
Well, health and safety, well, obviously it came in the 70s, but until that, nobody really needed it because you applied common sense. It was for your own safety. So you watched your own back and you watched your colleagues' back.
If you got knocked or something like that, they just took you to the hospital and that's it. Everybody looked after the cells. If you were doing a shunter with rail cars on depot, you always made sure driver knew where you were at because they used to just come down and touch you.
In the days before tops, fellas used to have to walk round a location at certain times of a day, and you had to physically count every single wagon. You had to walk down them with a lamp and just checking the colour of them. But it didn't just end there. You had to differentiate between whether they were loaded going onto the steelworks, or loaded coming off the steelworks, or they were part loaded, being used internally for some of their own commodities, which they used to do.
When big storms are on, and you got the remind, you're coming back tender first, and waves are breaking that way, and you got soaked, and you stood in front of the fire, and you're dry. But there were big waves, and rail cars, when they went around, you used to say, "Shut the windows," and some guards, they says, "It's not our job to shut the windows." And there's all folk in there, wave come over, and it went right through into the coach.
Everybody associates the railways smelling of coal and steam. Me, diesel. Overwhelming smell of diesel, raw diesel and diesel exhaust.
Monday morning, the shed was just like a black hole. There was smoke hanging up in the air. There was vents, but it was that much of it. There was maybe 25, 30 engines on there, all just smoking, Belgian smoke out there.
Facilities were basically, you had a kettle and a cooker, a baby bellying cooker at most places, and either a geyser for hot water and a cold water tap.
A wash basin spot with about 4 or 5 wash basins. They give you one cloth and your soap and that was it. But for toilets, you got the local newspaper on, put it onto 4 pieces, a bit of string through and put it back at the door. You never seen toilet rolls up them the days.
Between Harrington and Parton, and there was just a brick cabin which had been a platelayer's wayside building, and there was no light, there was no heat, there was no water, there was no toilet facilities, and it was damn cold. You just couldn't get warm.
You were issued with uniform, what we call a Lal monkey jacket, a Lalan.
Overalls and that. And a mark, you couldn't lift it. It was thick.
You got your railway cap with your plastic top.
And if you lost your cap, it always went into Bass Lake.
One of the things was a sense of camaraderie. Quite often you would all go for a pint together and enjoy it. And, you spent as much time in each other's company socially for a few hours after you'd done the job as you did actually at work.
Oh, there was some characters on thing, especially when you're on milk train. The driver used to go off and get you running for a pint while you were going outside and attaching wagons.
You'd done the job and you took a bit of pride in doing the job, as it should have been. And you walked away from work having felt that you'd done a good day's work. The sense of, knowing that the job was square and walking away and leaving it.
They always looked after you. Say they were called away somewhere and you was a spare man and they wanted a train moved, you would go and do it. I thought it was a great job. Best job I've ever had.
Workington docks played a significant role in the exportation of rails to all parts of the world.
A lot of it was in generations. You know, lad used to follow dad onto docks. My dad worked down there, my grandfather worked down there and all this. And it'd be sad when the last line of, of a family walked away from the docks. It was a way of life. And you just watched there, I was a kid, you just watch out the window of all these, boats, ships and all this coming in and out all the time. It was a private industry. It was when Workington was top of its game. I mean, Workington, in them days, it was a noisier place. You've locos run around, buffers clanking, wheels screaming, go around curves, and sometimes you're working in dark. The lights weren't brilliant on the cranes. The other people that were down there, the main part of the cargoes, was dockers. And the dockers didn't have a huge amount to do unloading the iron ore, but they had a lot to do when they were loading steel rails. Then there was other people that worked down the docks, dock gate men. They had to be there to open the dock gates every tide. You had tugboat crew, loco drivers. It was quite a big employer. It was the docks went in, very manual.
Workington Steelworks was the pioneer of the Bessemer process that manufactured the rails which circled the world.
Bessemer eventually developed the converter we know today. He could make steel. And he gave Britain such a lead that within a decade, she was producing more steel than the whole of the rest of the world.
Well, the most memorable site was the Bessemer, the greatest free show on earth, and its purpose was to convert iron into steel by blowing out all the carbon.
The hours that worked in the Bessemer was slightly different to other parts of the steelworks. They tended to be off at the weekends. The rest of the week it was 24 hours.
You'd hear a very high-pitched siren as a warning to everybody that the blower is about to tilt the vessel up, and in the blower's box you'd pull the lever and there was a massive shower of sparks. And you'd see the vessel shake and you knew that the molten metal inside was really being agitated.
The senior men, they were the blowers. They blew the heats of the Bessemer. They were stood in the blower's box. There was no fantastic computers in them days. Years and years of life experience of working in the Bessemer. And they were standing in the blower's box and they were watching the colour of the flame coming out the vessel. And they could tell you exactly what was happening in that vessel, what the steel was like, how far down the process you were.
Another sight and sound that I'll never forget is the sight of massive pistons and connecting rods and all thrashing around and just sounding like a stationary steam engine, and then the rail being transferred from one side to the other by hand,
You come to know the noises, and the noises told you what you should be doing, when you should be not be there, and when you should be there. They didn't really bother with too much with ear protection. That's why a lot of them suffered with deafness. The steel rails screaming through the rolls, the awful whistling noise. You could hear it all over Workington on a flat, calm night. It was a noisier place in them days.
The sound that you could hear, probably the longest distance from the mill, was a kind of ringing sound, but it came from the pig caster. So you could hear this bing bong, and all these noises. It just sounded like a giant tubular bells.
Different parts of the steelworks have got smells of all of their own. One of the worst parts really is the coke ovens. Because of the coke ovens, when you take tar and byproducts out of the coal, you go to the byproducts plant, and they were going along there trying to hold their breath when they went past byproducts, because of all this smell of tar and benzene and all the horrible creosote that used to come out of the coal. When they into the coke ovens, it absolutely stunk. You had to watch what you're doing around the furnaces, because it wouldn't be unusual for somebody to be found passed out, and it was carbon monoxide that was coming out of the blast furnaces.
And next one, have a stop.
somebody had to stand there for 8 hours a day and guide the plates, the sleepers, off the chains and onto the slides. And these things are still black hot, and they've just come out of a tar bosh. So now they gave you a mask to put on, but it wasn't. It was designed for dust, to protect you from dust, not for tar fumes. So you still got hit with the thing.
They often used to walk around the Bessemer with the trousers tucked inside the tops of the socks. And that was to stop any sparks getting down.
When you went to stores, they gave you what looked like a pair of wooden clogs, but cut in half and no tops on. And the idea was that you tied these to the base of your shoes because rubber soles would just melt on the plate. But if you stand on the plate with these wooden blocks, it would singe them, but it wouldn't set fire to them. Oh, and mutton cloth, which came on a roll, and you'd cut a bit off and then you'd tie it round your neck like a scarf. It was just an amazing place. The people were amazing. I've never seen such skill and dedication, but also such sense of humour down there. And I have a theory that the worse the environment, the better the sense of humour. And maybe it's something to do with bonding together as people in the, you can imagine it like being in the trenches in the World Wars. It's a similar sort of approach.
My grandfather lived down near Annie Pit, on Annie Pit Lane. And when we were down at his house, he could go and stand on Bessemer Bridge and watch all this action going on, the little locos running around, all the brown smoke coming out of the Bessemer when you knew the Bessemer was blowing a heat. And it was all go, it was all action. Good memories. I was there the day they blew the last heat of the last Bessemer when I was 10-year-old.
I was in the blower's box to see the last blow.
And I've seen a lot of hardened steel workers on the casting shop floor watching the last heat of the last Bessemer.
There was pensioners who'd retired several years earlier came in because it was a major point in time.
Yeah, and there was a lot of emotion that day. I've absolutely no doubt about that.
And I saw grown men cry, and I can understand now why they were crying, because they'd given their lives to this living, breathing process, and that was the end of it. So it was a really, really sad day.
I was only 10-year-old, and something I'll never ever forget. Because when you worked on the steelworks, you worked in the Bessemer, it was a hard job, and it was a proud job, and it was carried out by hard and proud men. And that's something I've absolutely no doubt about. I think the biggest thing on the legacy of working in steelworks is the amount of places you can go around the world now and see rails that's got it cast on the side of it. Workington, and a date from many years ago. In fact, it lasted, and it lasts well. That's when there was a fella standing there in a blower's box with a flat cap on, a pipe in his mouth, looking at the colour of the flame of a Bessemer. And that's what he called manufacturing, because they knew what they were doing.
For the town, yes, we should be proud of what we've achieved. Any time they're out working or journeying and they're near a railway line, you'll see them looking down to see what's written in that web, and it might say something like Wisco, if you're really, really lucky, and it's a really old rail, or USC, or BSC, or Chorus, and Workington, and you'll see it and you'll think, I might have been there when I made that one.
And so, all good things must come to an end. The last blow of the Bessemer, witnessed by many in July 1974, saw the end of a truly remarkable and groundbreaking process. The closure of the Workington steelworks followed in August 2006. They turned off the lights, locked the gates and threw away the key to one of West Cumbria's oldest and greatest industries. Amid tears, anger and disbelief, another blow to the area's economy.